que tu t'ennuies. On va pas y passer la nuit. Viens, on rentre avant minuit. C'est comme si on était parti dès l'hiver. On dit au revoir.
Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Catlike Reflexes! Catlike Reflexes! Hi everybody, welcome to Catlike Reflexes. I am your host, Bryan Piitz, and with me today are the PodCats, Derek Howard, Brendan Main, Nahanni and Steve Thoms. Welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about movies, but not in the way that we usually do. Today we're going to be talking about watching movies. And I don't mean the content of the movies themselves, but how do we watch movies? I think if you asked 100 people how they like to watch a movie, you might get 100 different answers. Or 10. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician.
All of them actually would just be Netflix.
Just Netflix.
One person would be Crackle.
Yeah. Yeah, one guy was like, oh, I got Show Me, and I don't even know why. Fuck. So yeah, a lot of people like to watch movies in a different way, so I guess how I'm going to start, I'm going to ask the PodCats here, when you want to watch a movie, what is your optimal setup? Like, what is the... In a perfect world, how do you watch a movie? And then how do you actually usually watch a movie? So... Oh, and also, Joe Beausoleil of Flooded Studios is here, trying to be real quiet.
Hello.
And he gave me shit for not introducing him last time. He said he just wanted to be here.
I just like to watch.
He just likes to watch. This is an audio program.
Oh.
You can do anything.
We're all like just bare ass, though.
It's true. We are.
Yeah.
We
No
are.
pants here.
Wangs out.
Speak for yourself.
Most of us.
Okay.
Hey, just fucking figure it out, Nahanni.
That attitude.
Figure it out. With that said, what is your optimal experience in watching a movie? How do you like to do it? Who would like to go first?
Well, I mean, you guys know that I used to be a manager of the Galaxy Cinemas.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You two were.
And part of the job was I had to watch a lot of movies, whether I wanted to or not. Most of the time, I did not want to watch them. So I got.
Did they make you just watch them? Like here's a shitty movie to watch.
Why?
Yeah, well, because when they get shipped to the theater, our projectionist has to put the film together. They actually have to tape the actual film together, and they got to put it on the reel. And a lot of things can go wrong when that happens. You could scratch the film. A splice might be really bad.
Okay.
The audio might go out of sync, so you have to just check it before they go live.
You have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, we would tune out a lot for a lot of the movies, but because you do it a lot, you get really sick of these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I love a good movie theater experience. I really, really do. I kind of got jaded after a couple of years of there, because I just did it there all the time. I kind of associated with just part of the job, and I kind of got tired of it. Even movies that I liked, I kind of like I would rather just be at home. Even like Lord of the Rings, I enjoy, but like I just want to go home. But
in 4 hours when the movie's over.
Like I love being surrounded by a screen. I really, really like getting sunken into that world. I like hearing like the movie birds going around my head, or a waterfall over here and a gunshot over there.
He is moving his hands from side to side, by the way, for those of you who can't see him.
Listening people will be like,
I can see
the gunshot
him
over
before.
where? I need to know where
that's right.
in relation to Steve.
But if they actually saw Steve, they'd be running from the theater, kind of like the old trains.
To be fair, it's because I'm bare-assed.
That's right.
But yeah, I love a good movie theater experience. I really do.
Actually, you taught me a valuable thing there, Steve, when you had left the Galaxy, and I asked you what is the best movie experience. You said that you should sit in a theater in the dead center about 3 rows down from the back, because that's the optimal place for all the audio to hit, as well as the screen.
Yeah,
really.
And I to this day I still put it to effect, because last week I had the opportunity to go see Chappie, which I did on a Saturday night, and there was no one in the theater. I got to sit in a full theater on a Saturday night alone, 3 rows from the back.
Did you wear pants?
Well, I mean,
Yes,
I wouldn't have
they're technically pants.
It was still winter at
They're
that point,
technically
but once I got in, it was like, woo, Chappie!
So moving on to that then, Derek, is that your ultimate movie watching scenario? Or
I want to hear what Steve. What were you going to add?
oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
Well,
Yeah.
when the theater was being built, the sound engineers came in and they were testing the audio response from various parts of the room. And they had they were clapping and they were judging the sound of that, the echo and everything like that. And because I was fresh out of college, studying music production, I was still really hot into that kind of stuff. So I talked to the engineer a bunch of questions. I talked to the questions. And he said, yeah, it's basically 3 to 4 rows back, and basically that's where all the speakers are kind of quote unquote pointed.
Now, is that for that theater specifically, or all theaters?
I mean, it's probably different now because we have more channels of sound these days. I'm sure they can personalize the direction of the mics, or the speakers rather. But you can also, if you're unsure where the center of the theater is, look at the back of the theater and look at where the projector is, and sit in front of the projector.
Yeah.
That makes sense, actually. If you when you say that,
It's really
Because the projector might actually be not in quote unquote the center of the theater. The theater might be a little bit off center because theaters are different, depending on the real estate of the room.
This is a little off topic, but I wanted to ask you because I was thinking about this the other day. What is the craziest thing you've ever seen someone sneak into a movie theater?
They snuck in Joe Bosley.
Were you wearing pants?
Let me think about that.
Okay.
Because there's a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Anybody else, Derek?
Yeah, my optimal movie watching experience. I have I when my father died, I got the inheritance, and I used a lot of that on a good entertainment system. I knew that that's going to be the one thing that I could use for many decades down the road. So I bought everything Sony high def TV.
Well, HD DVD, you got Betamax.
No, I got a PS3.
I'm just.
All right, Sony high def TV, Sony PS3 for the Blu-ray, Sony speaker system, and so I had a 7.1 surround sound in my room, and it was just great for playing games and everything. But when properly calibrated, that was the ultimate way that I absolutely loved watching films. Just sit there, and also it goes. When you ask this question, you also have to ask what is the attention span of the person you're asking. For me, I am the type of person that I catch all frames of all visuals. I can't look away from a movie. If I'm watching a movie, I have to see every single frame of every single moment. There's nothing which pries me away. So I actually love just being completely immersed in that screen and staring straight ahead. Put this chair right in the center of the room. I can't sit on a couch off into the corner or anything like that. I got to sit right there, square in the action. And that's my ideal movie watching scenario. Also, subtitles. Love them.
Yeah, I'm the same way. With home watching, especially old stuff, especially noir or screwball comedies, they have an incredible pattern. And I find when I watch movies with subtitles on, I clue into them faster. My problem usually when I was a little kid, I'd watch movies and characters would be introduced, and I'd say, well, who's this? Who's that? Who's this? Who's that? It's like, well, we don't know yet. Why don't you just find out?
Right.
And I sometimes still find, especially older movies, a little bit discombobulating at first. But you get those subtitles rolling, and sort of like, oh, I'm not missing a single thing. I know every single character's relationship to each other. Steve's mentioned the value of watching movies in the theater. I mean, there's not a lot that can be added to that. I think that movies are made with the theater in mind, or so much of the aesthetic of movies was founded upon the theater experience. There are things that you get in the theaters that you don't get. I'm constantly surprised when I watch a movie in public as part of an audience. My emotional response is different. Mm-hmm. And these are things that are universal. I mean, if you watch a comedy and somebody's laughing around you, or if you watch a horror movie and people are gasping around you, it's simply a different experience. And these things are seminal. One thing that I found incredibly surprising was how much more I liked silent movies with somebody actually playing live piano. So once a year, as I mentioned, Bryan, I go to the Coburg Port Hope Vintage Film Festival. And they always bring in somebody, usually from Toronto. They're usually a film professor who has sort of studied this. But I mean, there's no there's a knack to it. I don't think that there's an art to it because there's no real wrong way of doing it. But people score these movies and they play happy stuff and the happy stuff and the happy scenes, and they play sad stuff and the sad scenes, and they kind of like, you know, in the suspenseful scenes, and it really brings these films alive in a way that I couldn't really access them before. Even stuff universally loved. It was sort of like, okay, Nosferatu is a little long in the tooth, but but you watch that with somebody playing piano, it becomes a completely different experience.
It's true. If you watch them on like a DVD, usually the music is just some generic music they just sort of plunk in without really considering where it is in the film. It's just background music. But you're right. With a live accompaniment, they could play along with the movie, literally.
When and where is it? I've never experienced that. When I would love to see this.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
the Port Hope Coburg Vintage Film Festival is put on by the Mary Dressler Society. That was where Mary Dressler was born. She was one of the vaudevillian actresses who found her way to early theater. She was a middle-aged, kind of stocky woman who played really kind of like, she'd get drunk and she'd fall over people and so on. She was the eldest woman to win an Oscar for quite some time, for the majority of the period that there were even Oscars. And so the Murray Dressler Society puts on a couple of movies from the 20s, a couple of movies from the 40s and 50s. Chiefly they do mid to late 30s, early 40s stuff. And it's 3 days, and Colin and I go every year. It's incredible.
When is it? Like, what time of year?
Usually it's around August. Brian, could you pull up when the most
I went with you one
one
time, and it was a really good time.
Yeah, Brian and I went, and we saw a very strange selection. We saw a Cagney movie, but it was one of the Cagney movies where he played a song and dance man, right? It was what Cagney movie did we see? Or was that? Am I mixing this up? We watched
Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yankee Doodle Dandy
Yeah.
with James Cagney, who's playing a song and dance man, and we also watched Rashomon.
That's right.
Oh my god!
And
it was amazing.
And it was incredible.
On a big screen.
It was incredible viewing of Rashomon. And here's the thing: it's sort of like you go into Rashomon, it's like going into Memento, and you go into Memento, and it's like, okay, it goes backwards. Here we go. Rashomon is unreconcilable, and everyone knows it's unreconcilable. The point is that Rashomon's unreconcilable, but it's like if you're a Borg and looking at one of those four-dimensional things that freezes up your brain, or somebody looking at M.C. Escher painting, like, you can't be like, okay, I get that the stairs go nowhere. Like, you can't not be affected by it.
Right.
And all the way there, I was like, being like, okay, I'm going to watch Rashomon, and it's fine. And that Rashomon broke my brain. And the whole trip back, I was like, who was telling the truth, but who was lying? What happened in that grove? I don't know if people have seen Rashomon before, but a crime has been committed, and some people give testimony, and even the soul of a dead man is brought up, and he gives testimony. Now the testimony is reconciled, and at the end you have this priest sort of bewailing the lying hearts of man. There's no way to piece it together, but you can't not try to do it. I remember watching Rashomon with you, and it just devastated me. So the Murray Dressler Foundation's Vintage Film Festival, Bryan, wins this year's
October.
Oh, I see. Okay,
23rd, 24th, and 25th.
Yeah, and not all of them are black. Not all of them are silent films, but the ones that are silent films, they bring in a pianist, and who is sort of trained in this sort of experience. I would love to see this in Midland.
We did have it once here, eh?
Yeah.
Once or twice, yeah. Brookside Music brought...
Some silent movies,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
they played it not
At
just
St.
on a
Paul.
piano, but on an actual church
Yeah, that's
organ.
as
incredible.
well.
So I mean,
Which is great.
so the precedent is there. All you would need is the license to put on these movies, and the way that movie licensing works, so you sort of pay for its giant,
Catalog.
catalog of them, right?
Yeah.
There are two. So it would be.
What about things that are on archive.org? I mean, could you just throw
anything
on
that is
Buster
in the public
Keaton?
domain? You can,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, anything that precedes. Public domain is borked in Canada because it's messed up in the States, and we have Disney to thank for that. But anything that precedes 1924, you could do without license. But the point is that the license. I mean, people have the licenses. The MCC has one of the two big licenses, and the library has both. So it's just a series of conversations that.
So would you say that is the optimum way to watch old movies?
Oh, well, it's tough. As a movie, yes. But if it's just doing your homework, I can just cram them. I can just sit at home and I can watch 2 or 3 movies, and I'm 2 or 3 movies.
Like on your laptop or something?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I take Colleen to York once a week, I have this window of time that's precisely the amount of time to usually watch 2 movies. And I bring a laptop, and I bring headphones, and I get a lot of people give me weird stares. And that's how I watched, like 10 or 12 Errol Flynn movies in the span of a couple of months.
Well, you were standing at a urinal.
Yeah,
so.
I was, yeah.
Where do you usually sit with your laptop, actually?
Oh, it's a fairly public place. I have to plug in, so sometimes people come and stop and stand behind me for a little bit.
Oh.
I want to, like, offer them an earbud, but,
You should get a splitter and make friends. Plug in your own headphones.
Bryan, nothing so far has worked for me making friends. I don't know why that's worked. But it's great. And so, I have a small catalog of movies. The one time I went, I watched The Thin Man and then The Third Man. So, and then having watched them both instead of having watched neither of them, I will never mix them up. They're both excellent in completely different ways. And that's good too, right? So, it's art. It's personal. And however you find your way in, right?
Yeah. Now, Nahanni, you have a very peculiar way of watching movies that you prefer at home that you were telling me about earlier. Maybe you could talk to that a little bit.
I used to have a DVD player. I don't have it anymore. I've had a few of them in my life, and I like to watch movies on double time.
Oh, yeah?
And cram them in a little faster.
That's it. So, like, is everything, like, high-pitched?
The voices are a little high-pitched, the dialogue is quite quick. You adapt to it, and you just follow. It does not seem too fast. I read about it in, Douglas Copeland wrote Microsurfs back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know the story, but it's a bunch of programmers that work for Microsoft, and they do that on the weekend. They watch, and I'm like, I'm going to give that a try. And, I really enjoy it.
I do that with podcasts sometimes.
Yeah, I do that with podcasts too.
I put it at like 1.5 speed.
Yeah.
You might be listening to this podcast right now on higher speed. I don't know.
We'll talk slower.
That's what I do when Derek talks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But that's one of the things I do. But, I do have a nostalgia because I grew up here. I grew up over on Marshall Road for the drive-in.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, man.
I love the I still love the drive-in. It's not a summer unless I go a couple of times. Pants can be optional at the drive-in, gentlemen. In your car.
I had never gone to a drive-in until last summer. It just wasn't part of my experience. What's that?
I did not invite anybody to the drive-in, especially not you, Joe Bosley. But you just went last summer?
Yeah, it was incredible. And it wasn't part of my childhood, so I have no nostalgia for it.
Yeah.
But the drive-in is like a coelacanth. Like, it shouldn't still exist, but somehow it's still kicking. It's crazy.
And it's in the same form, too.
Yeah, and it's not
they
even
have
a
a digital
great...
projector now in Midland at the drive-in. And in fact, I was going to tell you, the Galaxy, you might be interested to know, has 100% digital projection now. They have no film projectors.
Good and bad. That's...
It's probably good in that there's less that can go wrong if a teenager's trying to do it. But
yeah, and there's a whole big story about film projectionists in Ontario.
Right.
It's kind of political, but probably don't want to get into it here.
Everyone, by the way, is distracted because I am moisturizing my elbows. My elbows right now.
It's glorious.
You can't see
I'm never going to
but-
be the same.
Sorry.
I did have some time to think about some of the things that I found in the theater. So I had to make a small list because I'd forget them. I had to call the police on this one because I found a little bong and a syringe.
Oh.
That was kind of weird. Because I was like, oh, that's...
So you called the police to party.
Wickham.
Jamming.
I was really surprised that these people managed to stick this in. It was a full 24 case of beer. Like, full. Like, an actual box. It wasn't 24 bottles. It was a full... I don't know how the hell they got in that in there.
Wow.
And they were kind of cold, too. Like, what the hell?
And they were all empty?
Most of them were empty, yeah. There was like 2 or 3 left.
What kind of beer was it?
I don't remember.
Yeah, remember? I bet you it was shitty beer.
It was probably like Coors Light or something.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Oh, I thought you said beer. Coors Light.
I saw... And now, I don't know how to word this correctly, whether it was a used condom or an empty condom. That was gross.
It depends if you're an optimist or a pessimist.
Depends if it's half empty or half full.
And it wouldn't, like...
If it's half full, holy shit, dude.
Or,
Would it be?
Or wouldn't it just look like a full condom, just be wearing it?
I guess so.
Depends on which one of us is wearing it, I guess.
Yeah.
Once again, half empty, half full.
Also, isn't it a little optimistic to call it a reservoir? Like, come on. Reservoir. Sorry.
And there's one more thing. It wasn't something that anybody said smuggled in, but I did have to break up a few, amorous young couples like in the men's room, because it's so romantic, in the back row. The oddest one was I broke up some oral sex in the second row. Like,
whoa, that's hardcore.
It's pretty metal.
Like from the very front, like the seats nobody likes at the
second
front?
row from the very front, yeah. So which is extra weird, because when you walk into the theater, you have that little, like, a path. You have like the main bunch of seats in the back, and then you have the path, and then a few more seats crammed into the front.
Yeah.
And they were in the row right in front of that path.
Oh, not in the very, very front, because that's a little bit hidden at least.
But yeah, second from the front.
So everybody
row.
walked in the theater with their popcorn,
They
and it was
could
just like...
totally just see them macking on each other. It was
macking on each other. That's not what you said a second ago. It's a little more than macking.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, like I
smacking.
Do you remember what the movie was?
Snacks kind of way?
Yeah.
No.
No. Was it like?
You just poke them with a
Was it like Paul
spray
Blart
some
Mall
water on
Cop?
them.
I mean, when I had to do that kind of role, I wouldn't like get like some teenager to do that. I'm like, oh, I'm the boss in my 20s, so I'll do it. I had the same line. It was, hey, this is a family place. Usually they would leave.
Did anyone respond with, "She's my sister"? Because then you would have said, "Oh,
Derek, you just A-teamed it.
You did aim team that, yeah.
You A-teamed it. Nahanni, you got interrupted a little bit there, but you were talking about...
Yeah, Brendan.
No, it happens in the natural flow of conversation. But I'm curious about, you said the drive-in. You lived near the drive-in. Did you actually pay to go in the drive-in, or did you just like kind of bring a radio with you?
There were times when you just sometimes didn't pay to go into the drive-in. What's really cool though is I grew up next to the drive-in. Like I grew up going.
You're like down the road, right?
Like yeah, it's like it was literally like a 20-minute walk if I wanted to walk there.
Right.
So when we got to be 14, 15, that's the age where your mom drops you off at the theater and she comes and gets you afterwards. My mother used to drop us off at the drive-in because they knew me growing up, with lawn chairs, blankets, and my friend, and a radio. And we'd set up in a little car space, and we'd watch the movie on our lawn chairs. And then, when the movies were over, I was allowed to call my mother from the popcorn stand, and she'd come and get us.
I guess if you pay your $8,
and we paid to go in, and my mother would drop us off and pick us up.
Like, what a great bunch of memories.
Yeah.
Honestly, like that's really sweet to me.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah,
and it persists. Like against all odds, they're still doing it, right?
Because it's an experience. It's not.
It's not a great movie experience because it's steamy.
Yeah.
You got to put screens up.
There's
There's mosquitoes.
A lot of mosquitoes there.
Like
I find, I will if I'm going to a movie theater like a Cineplex, I'm very picky about the movies that I will go see. For the most part, if it's the drive-in, I don't even give a shit. Like it could be anything. I saw a Battleship.
The thing about going to see movies,
like I saw a Battleship there, and I didn't even care. Like it doesn't matter what the movie is because you're not going for the movie. You can Netflix a movie. You can just go to watch whatever's on, and the experience is that you're there, you're outside, you're with someone usually.
Well, it's a double header, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, like it's the Twix of movies.
Yeah.
So, like, there's no possible way that you're going to like both of these movies, right? I mean, one of them's going to be terrible. But you can go see a movie and then just stay for one.
Yeah.
And movies used to be shown like that. I mean, movies used to be shown, you could watch two at a time. You would watch one, then you watch the other. And sometimes they were paired specifically, but sometimes not, right? But, so, I mean, the very fact that you can go and just be like, you know what I want to watch? Two random generic movies. One or likely both are going to be terrible.
Right.
And you can decide whether to muscle through it or just drive away.
That's true. We usually don't stay for two. We usually can only do one before we.
But you're bringing Clara, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why the drive-in kind of lasts over generations because I have memories there. And then I made memories there for my daughter, but also I couldn't take her at that age to a theater because she wouldn't sit still.
Exactly.
She can make all the noise she wants in the car and bounce around.
It's the best when you got a baby.
And if you want to see movies, the drive-in is the best.
If she cries in the car, it doesn't matter. No, it's not going to bug anybody. And if it's really loud and it's a pain in the butt, you just drive away. Like nobody even gives a shit.
That's right.
There's a drive-in outside of where I live in Guelph called the Mustang. It's been there since like the 50s. And
what kind of movies did they show there?
I don't know. I was actually just going to ask you if you had ever been there, being like a fan of drive-ins.
No, I haven't.
It's actually, from what I understand, I've still never been there. I haven't lived in Guelph that long, but I could just go. But it was featured in IO9 or Wired or something.
Oh, really?
Recently.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's like one of the most like well preserved and still very popular drive-in theaters.
I would
in
drive
North
across
America.
Ontario for an event where we all went to a cool theater.
Oh man,
To me,
Yeah,
too
that would
cool.
be-
Remember we went to
that'd
that
be a cool
theater
road
when
trip.
the Invisible Car was going to be shown. Where the hell was that?
I don't recall. But it was a tiny town, but it was
It was a little town. I can't remember.
was it an atmospheric theater? Like was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
It was yeah.
and it had like a castle on the walls.
Yeah, atmospheric theaters
hell was it
were
called?
made of an era when people painted the interior of a theater to look like the outside sky at night. So I don't know if it's always at night, but painted the interior like an outside. It was lovely, actually. It was quite the experience.
By the way, really quickly describe what the Invisible Car is, since you brought it up.
Oh, the Invisible Car was a short film we made in, I think it was 2009.
Yeah.
And
Imagine
Brendan wrote
the-
this movie about a guy who owns an invisible car. I directed it, and a bunch of people we knew were in it. And we brought it to the Barrie Film Festival, where it was successful. And there was a guy who was part of the TIFF film series, the same one that the museum does, but in another town, which I'm trying to find the name of. And he said, "Wow, like that was really cool. Would you mind if we showed it before our film?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, man, that'd be great." And so I don't think they expected us to show up. We drove all the way, like, for hours to this little town.
Yeah.
And the movie wasn't that good. Like, our movie was better than the movie they showed, I think.
But how could it not have been?
I know, it's
How-
amazing.
How
That was
could
pure genius. I've seen it.
Yeah. The Invisible Car, check it
you
out.
liar? It's invisible.
Videoya.com.
How could you have?
Oh, never mind.
The
I
theater's
don't remember the
amazing.
name of it, but
Like we went to the Alamo Draft House in Texas.
the Alamo Draft House. If anybody
I've heard of this place.
Alamo Draft House.
Legendary.
I think the
Yeah.
original one is in
Well,
Austin.
remember it, right? Remember it. Yeah. Remember the Alamo Draft House.
That trip we went to the Alamo Draft
So
House
awful
and the
sometimes.
actual Alamo in San Antonio. But yeah, we went to the Alamo Draft House. I guess we went to the one in San Antonio. We didn't
Yeah.
go to the one in Austin. But their thing is they curate a very specific movie watching experience, and you go in. They enforce noise rules. If you are texting, you just get booted out, like in the riverboat in Maverick. Just like boom, you're out.
Yeah,
Oh.
Derek.
Apparently, Madonna went to a movie there one time and took out her cell phone, and they were like, "Get the fuck out, Madonna," and she was not impressed.
Right on.
Yeah, but anyway, and also the way you sit, they have sort of like really nice theater seats, and then there's like a bar sort of in front of you, like a countertop, where they will just serve you food, not like popcorn and Twizzlers, but like, would you like a plate of chicken wings and a beer?
A burger and a beer.
But you know what I find about modern theaters, I mean, including our local one now, it's like seating in an airplane.
Right.
It's not a comfortable experience like it used to be. Not that the Roxy or the Penn was great seating, but that's a nostalgia thing.
Sure.
But, I've been in theaters where it's really comfortable seating, and those new theaters are not meant to be sat in for a long period of time.
There's a new Galaxy Cinemas in Guelph, and they're like people outside of the company are still kind of bragging about what Guelph has with this theater. They call it the Pergola Commons, and it is a Galaxy Cinemas, but it's like this entirely different experience. So for one, there's selected seating.
What do you mean? Like you buy a specific seat, like
Yeah.
in a
Yeah,
theater?
just like it's an actual play kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
And it's really handy because you can look at the distribution of seats and go, I'm not going to go. Because
Exactly.
rather than having to cram in and look for a seat, all of that stress is gone. Now
Right.
I think they actually sell less seats.
Or you can look at it and say, well, everybody's sitting in the sort of bottom left. I'm going to go to the top right because I can get some really good head up there. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a.
But I think that's common elsewhere, because when I lived in Europe, it was always you paid a premium price for a better seat.
Right.
That sweet spot you were talking about. But I think that's pretty common elsewhere besides here.
Galaxy is now offering some with licensed theaters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like
in the actual theater.
license for liquor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bad idea.
Yeah.
Honestly, because I dealing with drunk people in a movie theater. Good God, what an awful experience
Two
for
awesome
other.
things.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be a terrible license because it's tiered seating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a terrible license to have.
That's true.
It's huge insurance.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they
Just
do
put
that.
a whole bunch of drunk people in a room with that's just stairs.
Yeah.
Well, and, like,
It's just
imagine
made
what
of
would happen.
stairs.
Like
It's the MC Escher Theater.
like somebody up in the back drops a
Fall
glass
forever.
bottle and it slowly rolls down the entire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, when I watch a movie, I have two minds about it. One, I like the movie theater to be fucking silent, except for the movie. When people talk in a movie theater, it really bothers me. I know I'm not alone in that. Some people have more tolerance than others. I'm just like, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
There is a movie in front of you. That should be entertaining enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, people whisper now and then. That's fine. But like when people talk or whatever, like I don't like that. I like Derek said, I don't like to miss a frame of the movie.
I have an addendum to mine about that, but I want to hear what you say about your...
I don't like to miss a thing. So like I have a hard time like going to the bathroom during the movie. Some people are like, oh fuck it, I get up, I'll take like 10 minutes to go to the bathroom. It's like you just missed 10 minutes of the movie. Like what if it was important? I remember going to see American Pie when it came out with my brother, and we had seen 2 movies that day, and in between I had purchased a drink, and it was super cheap to get a giant drink. It was like a bucket of pop. And I drank the whole thing, and by the end of the movie I had to go so bad, and I didn't want to get up because I didn't want to miss the movie, and I thought it was almost over, and I was like, it's going to be over in a minute, I'll go. And then it kind of had like false endings where it didn't really end, and I was like, holy shit, by the end of the movie, I couldn't walk or stand. I sort of squatted out of my seat and then just moved my ankles slowly toward the bathroom, and my brother, who was with me, he didn't help me. He just laughed like a lot because I didn't want to miss any of the movie. But on the other hand, like I like it quiet. Like if I go to a theater and I'm the only one in there, like that is the best.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I have been to theaters where the opposite is true. I remember going to see Steve. You were there. It was a advanced screening of Austin Powers Goldmember.
Okay.
And it was like the day before it came out. They had like an advanced screening. A whole bunch of people went, and it was packed. But the energy from the audience was really good, like because people were laughing in the right parts, and it kind of gets you going and everything. Yeah. So I'm of two minds about audiences. I don't. Some people say, "Oh, I like to go to the movies. And I like to shout at the screen and do stuff," and I'm like, "Fuck you, fuck you! I didn't come to hear you shout at the screen." Like that's just my personal opinion. People have Bethany's. My wife is very much into like. Oh man, it's like a community experience, and everyone comes together, man, and like it's that shared communal experience. And I'm like, get the fuck out of my theater. If I had headphones, I'd wear them.
If your community is terrible,
if your community is awful,
it can be a community experience, and also be probably a
prison is a community too.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just how I feel about it. But at home, I like to curl up on a couch, and I try to do it at a time when I'm not going to be interrupted. So when the baby goes to bed, like I don't like interruptions. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Sorry, Derek, you want to say
the theater experience? Just what you said. I love a quiet, silent film. If I'm the only one in the theater, great. But I went and saw Scream on opening day down in Toronto. The theater was packed full of basically anyone who wanted to go see the film. It was just this weird crowd. I started watching the film, and I was really, really hyped about the film. It being a meta film, which hadn't really been tackled in a serious, satirical way in a long time. And I'm trying to watch the thing with rapt attention, and there's this group of teenagers in front of me, about 5 rows in front of me, and they're just like, "No, don't answer the phone, bitch! Come on, don't answer the phone!" And I was like, will you just shut up? And I'm getting riled about this. I'm just getting venomously riled. And then at some point, maybe it was 20 minutes in, maybe it was 30 or 40 minutes in, it caught, and I was like, oh, the film is not made for me. The film is made for those people right there, 5 rows in front of me. They are the optimal audience, and they're having the most. And they were howling at the shots that they were taking at Scream. They were laughing, trying to one-up each other in the audience as the film was encouraging them to one-up each other. It was amazing, and I was like, okay, you know what? I am no longer angry about being, this has to be the optimal viewing experience, because these people are providing the optimal viewing experience. So I was really happy that I didn't participate, but I was there watching them, and they actually became part of the film. It was really fun. I've never experienced that before or after.
Wow.
Anyways.
So you were gonna... Sorry, I thought something.
You had just mentioned Netflix and
Yeah.
being at home on the couch. How do you think that home entertainment has changed, and has that affected home viewing? I mean, are we now
Absolutely.
slaves to the digital download?
I don't know if we're slaves to it. I think, like, don't let that scare you. Let that liberate you. As the song. Yeah. Anyway, because I think, like, we, in a way, we're kind of, he knows what I'm talking about. I think that it's a golden age for movie watching now, because you can get pretty much anything, pretty much anytime you want to watch it. And I think about that as a kid.
And it's going to look better than it has for 30 years. 40
it'll be
years.
remastered. It'll be whatever. So I think,
it's portable, it's mobile, you can take it anywhere, you can watch it anywhere.
Well, Nahanni, you were talking about your daughter catching up on old movies. She you were saying how she references things, sees references on Family Guy, for instance, and then like goes back and watches the movie it's referenced from. You couldn't do that when we were kids, because you just could. Maybe you could get it at the video store, maybe
if
not.
you were lucky, your parents explained it to you.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's just like
something you just have to deal with just not knowing.
Yeah.
Forever.
And then years later, Daffy Duck in Durlock Holmes cartoon, he said, Lady Ascot, how are you doing today? Ascot not. And I had no idea what that reference was. And then 20 years later, I came across an Ascot not, and I just lost it. Just in public. I was just like, Ascot not.
What is the ascot now? Is it a way of tying an ascot?
Yeah.
It's a way of tying a tie?
It's a way of tying a tie, and I lost it. Just laughing.
Okay,
People were staring at me.
That stayed with you for a long time.
It did, but you couldn't ask anyone. My parents, they wouldn't have known.
You need to be incredibly erudite to get all the references in Looney Tunes. I mean, like, Bugs Bunny is a parody of a scene in It Happened One Night, one of the old screwball comedies, one of the seminal screwball comedies, in which the main character is eating carrots, and Mel Brooks has Mel Blanc, thank you, does this sort of impersonation of who's the lead in It Happened One Night? I always mix it up.
I don't remember.
Chandler, bing that for us.
Yeah, could you please duck go? Who's the lead in It Happened One Night?
Well played. Well played.
Oops.
You fit right in.
It Happened One Night, starring.
It's Clark Gable, isn't it?
Yep, Clark Gable.
Clark
Colbert.
Yeah, and so like it's a Clark Gable impersonation, and who would know that? Who needs to know that? But that's its genesis, right? It's like.
But now, if you wanted to, you could just say, "I'm just going to watch It Happen One Night."
Mm-hmm. You could, and that would be incredible because it's a great film. But like, it's the same way that like you kind of like you listen to the Weird Al as a kid, and then you have a lifetime of listening to the actual songs.
That's right.
Or you watch the Simpsons, and you have a lifetime of sort of like watching all the things that they reference, right? I mean, like that happens over that doesn't happen in a day. You can't be 15 and get all this stuff. So I mean, I think it's great. We live in an archivist's age where everything is sort of kept, and this is beyond the fact that anybody could just be like, I'm just gonna steal load this from the pirate webs. I mean, there are ways to pay for these things, and there are ways to have them. I mean, imagine. I didn't experience this, but imagine living in an era where, I guess as a child I did a bit, but the idea of being like, I have this movie, nobody else has this movie.
Right.
If somebody else wants this movie, I need to make a copy. And stuff like this circulated. I mean, I
did that.
Same with music. I did albums.
I had that with Jackie Chan's Drunken Master 2. Yeah. I had it on VHS, paid $80 import for it. Oh yeah, and I lent it out to everyone I could find. You need to watch this film.
It's amazing, right? Like, and as a kid, I had a copy of a couple of Jackie Chan movies, or rather, as a young guy in elementary school. Somebody on Kijiji, they're moving to Guelph, and they've been slowly giving away all their things. And they had this entire VHS collection of Bond movies. And I went over there and took them from her for free, because that's the kind of, a gentle soul that I am. But she also had a copy of Jackie Chan's Who Am I?
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, do you want this? I lost my... I'm like, oh my god, you have a copy of Jackie Chan's Who Am I? This is great!
On VHS, even.
On VHS. And, like, I raved her with the final scene, and I was like, oh, have you seen this? And she's like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what... You can have it. I mean, this is valueless.
It's just something that takes up volume.
Yeah. But, I mean, I coveted my VHS copy of Jackie Chan's Who Am I? And I watched the final scene over and over and over. It's amazing. Anyways, Jackie Chan, Who Am I, has a pretty good final act.
But not as good as Drunken Master 2.
Yeah, but that's because Drunken Master 2 is probably one of the best kung fu movies just
on VHS ever.
Yeah.
Or just ever at all, period, right? Like, it's hilarious.
All right, we are going to wrap it up, so Steve, hurry. if you want somebody can squeeze you if you need.
So honestly, I did have one thought about this the streaming stuff. It's created this really weird side effect on the movie industry in that. Because anybody can just download anything that they want, movie studios don't want to take a big risk anymore, so that they pretty much only produce tentpole movies to like prop up.
That you would go to, yeah.
Like that's why we have Transformers, all these superheroes movies, because they know they're going to sink a ton of money into it, but they're going to get like $1 billion back. And because why would you take these risks that you would take back in the 90s? Just don't do that anymore, because it's just anybody can just watch like these great. Okay, no, I'm rambling.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm rambling.
Yeah,
I'm a rambling man.
Well, just to wrap it up here, I wanted to ask everybody if you can tell me just very briefly. We'll go around the circle here and tell me what was your best movie watching memory. Does anybody have any?
I have a quick one. I have a quick one that involves Brian's wife Bethany, which is we were all sitting around watching a martial arts film at a friend's place, and Bethany was lying on the couch. It was very, very late at night. She was near falling asleep. In fact, we suspected she had her eyes shut. And I am a hawk. I will see a frame in a film that no one else sees. And out of nowhere, she goes, "That guy was wearing a headband that said the word ninja on it." And all of us who had been watching the film actively, not this sleeping woman on the couch, all of us were like, "What?" And we rewound it, and sure enough, in the background, on this guy in the background of this bad ninja movie, this guy in the back had the word ninja written on his handband. And we were like, "How did you even see that?" She's like, "I don't know." She rolled back over and pulled the blanket over her head.
She sleeps through every movie.
It just, stunning. One of the best movie moments I've ever seen is someone, that was amazing.
Next. Do you have any?
I don't know my best one, but when I was a kid, I saw Ghostbusters 2, and I got so scared I had to leave the movie.
Nice.
I have never had to leave a movie ever since, and I vowed to never that Ghostbusters 2 is the only movie I ever leave while it was going on.
Did you finish watching it?
No, I didn't. I've
never seen it since?
You've never seen Ghostbusters 2?
Right.
Well, you gotta run off and... So there's that. I remember going to see No Country for Old Men with a bunch of people, and it's a very disturbing opening act, and I had somebody who was just queasy, and they couldn't do it, and they didn't think they were going to make it through, and they said, "I need to leave this theater right now." And my wife, because she's a better person than me, she's like, "Well, if you go, I go. Like, that's fine." And everyone was like, "Well, if you need to leave right now, that's fine." And I was like, "If you leave, I'm staying, because I'm not leaving No Country for Old Men. I'm enjoying No Country for Old Men. I'm sorry if the violence or just symbolic about our nihilistic experience is not doing it for you. That this mass murdering people is." And I was like, "I'm going to stay here alone if need be." I think there's a little bit of Ghostbusters 2 in that. And I badgered them into staying, and I was like, "Oh, why did I do that? What was I thinking?"
I think I was there too, in another row. Was that in Barrie at the?
No, I think...
Was it a different
Yeah,
screening?
I saw it with Joe McLeod and...
Yeah, I think I was there too, but...
Oh, yeah?
I might be mistaking that for a different time. Yeah. Nahanni, do you have any, drive-in memories, or...
I have tons of drive-in memories, but I think the movie that I remember the most, but I didn't know what I was watching at the time, was Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I didn't know that's what I was watching until years later when I saw it again, because it impacted me. I just remember scenes of it and just not understanding what I was seeing, and until I saw it in full length, many years later when I was 14.
You didn't know why you were throwing popcorn at the screen.
Yeah, I didn't know what.
You didn't know why you were in drag.
I like the sign of drag. I didn't know why there was people in drag. And
why was I allowed out after midnight?
Yeah, why was I up so late watching this anyway? And and it was years later. It's like, I always remembered seeing this movie, and there's these people in drag, and there was aliens, and there was dance sequences, and I couldn't remember what the movie was. And then I went to the theater.
Do you now like Rocky Horror Picture
Oh, of course
Show?
I do. Yeah, of course I do. And then I went to see the Rocky Horror when I was about 14 for real.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the movie. That's the one I didn't get. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I have a real love for.
Oh, Frankenfurter
and it probably
means
explains
penis.
a lot. Yeah, about me. Yeah. That explains a lot.
He was a sweet child.
Shut up, Joe.
Quiet, you.
Over there.
Just working.
Yeah, right.
He made air quotes when he said that.
Yeah, working.
Steve, you must have a few.
Only one really stands out: Star Wars Episode 1.
Oh yeah.
Did not. I mean, obviously, the movie's not that great, but all of us that were like too young to remember when Star Wars came out in the theaters, and we all saw it on VHS, these crappy VHS tapes, for years and years, and we always kind of heard the mythology about seeing Star Wars in a theater.
Right.
Like my film criticism teacher at college, he said that when the Death Star blew up in Episode 4, everybody stood up and cheered in the movie theater. And I'd never been in anything like that in a movie theater at all. Like, we just didn't see that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like our chance to see a new Star Wars in a packed theater, and everybody wanted to be there. You just don't know. Like, everyone was really excited. No one was coaxed into it.
Yeah. I remember I was there because
yeah, you were.
We had gone to trivia night at the bar next door. We weren't planning on going to Episode 1 because we thought, oh, the lines will be long or whatever. But when we came out of the bar, it was like 11:45 before the midnight screening.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, like, there was like 6 guys in line, and it was like, oh, we could just go in line and see it. So
I was one of them.
Were you there too?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were there. And we went in, and you're right, it was exciting. There was that moment that it was like our Star Wars, and then like wasn't Episode 1 like a huge cock block for that? Like
it was, oh god, it was terrible. I mean, like the pod racing scene took forever, and it just like deflated everything. But you were still.
But the pod race was pretty cool. So you know.
But like everybody was like really happy. They're like, okay, this is like a new Star Wars experience. It was so anticipated too, and like, yeah, it didn't really live up to the hype, obviously, but who cares?
Yeah,
it's brand new Star Wars, and we all get to enjoy it together. And those things that like the people that were born in like 1965 and they got to see Star Wars and fresh and new. Well, I can do that now too. There's no Death Star. And there's a weird dude, all kind of like racist imagery about Jamaicans and Japanese people, but whatever, because there's new lightsabers, and that guy's got a double-ended lightsaber.
Right.
It's pretty sexy.
Yeah. One of my favorite movie memories is with you again, Steve. We used to go to the Roxy all the time, and for some reason we would run into the theater, not walk, run, so we could sit in the very front row in the middle, because we thought that was a premium seat. Even though it wasn't, because you have to stare up at the screen. But we were kids, we didn't know. We used to go, like, I think you do.
No.
We went and sat there, and one time we went and sat there, and I remember the movie, it was Turner and Hooch. Steve knows it.
Yeah.
And another kid came down and sat in the front row where we were. No one was even near us. They were all way in the back. We were sitting in the front row. Some kid comes and sits, like...
He thought you had an in. He thought
we were in the very front, in the middle, the middle two
Yeah.
seats. And this kid was on the end. He sat in the end or whatever. And we were like, oh, geez, some kid's sitting near us.
And you know what? The front row for us was like the couch and Friends. Like,
yeah,
don't sit there. This is our
place. And anyway, this kid sat there, which was fine. But then he was talking, and there was clearly something with him. Like he had some kind of
imbalance,
mental something. Like he clearly had issues. I'm trying to use a good term, like these, you know.
If you keep using words, you'll find the right one.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, exactly. So you know what I mean. Anyway, he sat there and he would like talk to the movie, but like to the dog and like bark at him. So he was like bark, 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 and he howled at the dog and whatever. And it was really distracting. And finally, Steve, who was closer to him, turned and was like, "Hey, like, could you just shut up or whatever?" And he was like, "Hey, don't tell me to shut up." And he holds up, you can't see me, but he held up his finger like Popeye, his hand like Popeye, like shaking his fist. He was like, "Don't tell me to shut up, or you're going to get one of these." and we never forgot that.
It was a combination of like a fist, like threat, and a muscle flex at the same time.
It was like he was trying to push his fist at us, not like a punch, but like, "Hey."
It was little hacksaw Jim Duggan of him.
Yeah, it was, and he was like, "You're gonna get one of these," and it was like we never forgot this kid. I don't even know who he was or where he came from or where he went after that.
He went to another town and did the same thing.
Yeah, and it's just funny the things you remember, right? Like,
yeah. Oh man.
Anyway. Anyway, we're way over time, so I want to thank everybody for listening today. I hope you've been listening in your optimal podcast listening experience. If you want to talk to us about your optimal movie watching experience or anything else that we've talked about today, or, you just want to say hi, see how we're doing, let us know. You can comment anywhere you see this podcast. You can also email us if it has to be private or whatever. You can email us at info@catlikereflexes.com. Disclaimer, might not actually provide info. Or you can catch us where the action is on Twitter @CRPodcast. Or check out all the Catlike Reflexes info at www.catlikereflexes.com. Where you can also check out our Tumblr. You know, you've seen this show before. Don't pretend that anybody listening to this doesn't just know us. So you did, or because you could just find us at home or at work and just ask us a question.
If you live in Midland, if you see us on the streets, you could just attack us.
Yeah,
just viciously attack
totally.
us.
Violently push us a question.
That's right. Violently push us a question. Anyway, let's wrap it up.
Catlike Reflexes.
The audience.
The music at the beginning and ending of this episode of Catlike Reflexes was Dernier Verre by Sugar Lab. I found their music on Jamendo.com, and so can you. Or you can let us save you the trouble and find a link on the post for this week's episode on CatLikeReflexes.com.